All right.
Well, let's get into it. So
Yeah.
where did you go this past weekend?
Well, I went up to your neck of the woods. I went to Oakstone.
I heard there was an appearance made.
And
How
there
was
was an
it?
appearance. It was good, man. It's my first time being out there. Um, yeah, man, it was exactly what you described it as. I mean, it is world class operation.
Chad
The
has Chad has built a very good operation.
Yeah, no, it was very apparent as soon as we pulled up. You know, they were already sighting in the guns and everything was just pristine. It was fun, man. It was my buddies from Orange County. They came up and they absolutely had a blast, absolute blast.
Yeah, so what was your initial reaction when you got there? Like obviously not being there before, like what was your first thoughts when you saw the place?
You know, it's when we got took our first initial drive and stuff and kind of got up on the hill to like actually see the whole ranch. It is very different than what I'm used to. Just really rolling hills until you get to that like northern side of the ranch. It turns into a lot more steep, brushy country, which is more of what I'm used to, but still the brush is different. It was just different. It was cool, a little bit sparser trees, but they're all big rolling hills and lots of animals. My goodness, there was a lot of deer. Saw quite a few little herds of elk. Pigs were out and about, but not as much as we had hoped for. Just from not from lack of opportunity, just being able to get over to them. And with some new hunters, it requires a little bit more effort.
And then 2.5 inches of rain doesn't help either.
Yeah, it was raining the entire time.
How wet did you guys
Like,
get?
oh, we were soaking wet. Actually, the first Friday when we pulled up, it was absolutely gorgeous. And so we had, those 4 hours, 5 hours of just perfect weather. And then next morning it came on us and then kept coming down all day.
Never stopped.
Not really, no. Yeah. So all the way through Sunday. And Sunday was when we were successful.
Nice. So did you learn anything on that? Obviously, being new to hunting and then, hunting with Hunter and Chad, like what are some of the things you picked up on that you may not have knew about like pig hunting?
That's a good question. Well, I think mainly the biggest thing that stuck out to me is how smart those pigs are. It is not, I've mostly like unpressured pigs. Those
Right.
pigs are, you can make it hard when you're finding the right one, but it's not very hard to get on a group there. And from what I've heard is, those pigs, they hear the side by side. The wind switches even just a little bit. I mean, those pigs are full steam ahead, gone, like, and won't stop. With us, from my experience, they act very similar to deer, where you can kind of bump them a little bit. They might go a couple, you know, 50 yards, 100 yards, and then they'll stop and they'll kind of like go back to what they're doing. But not here. Not none from my experience at this ranch. They knew they were being hunted, especially the boars.
Oh
That
yeah.
big boar on Sunday, he knew he was the target and he left instantly. So,
Yeah. If you hunt that country, you have to be absolutely on your game. Like you have to be on point and precise, and you cannot make a mistake because if you do, they'll slip you every single time. And that country, even though it's open, it's pretty crazy how fast they can slip you. So if you don't have an idea, and most of the time they'll use the same trails, like they have a handful of trails they'll use. And so usually if you let them commit, you can kind of see which direction they're going to run. You can usually get around on them. But for the most part, man, if you are new to hunting or if you're new to that ranch as a guide, boy, those pigs will slip you in a heartbeat.
yeah, you
And
could
it's
tell like Hunter knew, Chad especially obviously knew, like
yeah,
if those pigs got to certain parts on that ranch, we turned around. It was
yeah,
not worth the time to get into. And so, I guess we could dive into a little bit of the story of our actual hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So,
obviously I wasn't there, so I'd like to hear about the whole thing. I haven't really got to hear
oh yeah,
much
that's
about
right.
it.
Yeah, that's right. So we showed up on Friday. We went out. We ended up seeing one or two groups of pigs. I think two. Yeah, two groups of pigs. The first group was on the neighbor's property, and then the second one was like right as the sun was setting, and we just lost light, and it just wasn't worth it to keep pushing. So we backed out, and we went back to that same spot the next morning. So obviously we woke up early, hit it, and that's when it was starting to rain, light drizzle. So it wasn't too bad for the first like 3 hours, and then it really started to come down. But once those pigs, man, they that next day we I'm trying to think. I think we saw one group of pigs, couldn't make a move on them, and then we spent the rest of the time just covering country, glassing different knobs, checking out. I think Doug's lookout was a big lookout that Hunter made us park on, and we walked to that edge and looked down in there. We stayed there for probably a good 20-30 minutes, and then hit different sides of that area and really like looked that area over. And then we came back to the house and had a delicious breakfast, brunch kind of thing. Hung out there for a couple hours and then went back out in the rain and hit the north side of the ranch. And we struggled, to be honest with you. We didn't see anything until the last 30 minutes of light, and we got on our first group that evening, and it was too quick. They heard us coming. We came around the bend. They were right there. Got out, got all set up on them as they're kind of coming up over the hill, and then they just disappeared. And it was a mama. I think it was a sow with a couple, smaller piglet kind of things. I don't think it would have been anything that Hunter, if he actually got a good look at, would have been like, yeah, pull the trigger.
Right.
So that was a little unfortunate. And then came across, dude, we're obviously working back daylight. We had 4 minutes of light left. I mean, you couldn't see through your scope or anything. It was not worth it. And pull up to the truck. The pigs are 20, 30 yards away from the truck. Literally, a group of 20. The biggest group that we saw all weekend was sitting right next to the truck, and they were just feeding around. So when we pulled up, Hunter looks over and goes, "Oh my gosh, there they are!" And we try to cut them off and get in front of them, and it kind of worked. We didn't end up pulling the trigger. It was too late. By the time we actually got ahead of them, I looked at my phone and I go, Hunter's like, "What time is it?" And it was like we had 1 minute left or 2 minutes left, and it was like Hunter's like, "Nah, don't try." So yeah, that was a little bit of a bummer. And then when we got back, we had tri-tip and all that. Dude, the food was delicious. Holy smokes. So
Rick's a pretty good cook.
oh, Rick's a good cook and he's a good storyteller. So it made it even more fun.
Oh yeah, did he serenade you with his singing and his guitar playing?
No, but I heard rumors of it.
Oh well, you're gonna have to come back then because
I think I
you haven't
will.
got the full experience until Rick serenades you around the campfire.
Oh man, the big buck stories, man. That's what really got me. I was getting all jazzed up just listening to him talk about all the years of hunting and talking about the different ranches that he's been on. And he's an interesting guy.
Oh yeah,
Interesting guy. But yeah, so the next morning, Sunday morning or last morning there, uh, Chad came out with us. So we had me, my buddy Dylan, and Chad. And then it was Hunter, Andrew, and then my other videographer buddy, Seth. And yeah, so we split up. I think we went just kind of down this middle of the ranch. And then I'm not quite sure where Hunter went, but we picked up pigs right off the bat within probably like 20 minutes or so. And Chad was so patient. And I think that was one of the biggest things that stood out to me is he just knew when to go. those pigs were feeding, and I feel like I'm sometimes too aggressive with just hunting in general. I kind of like a lot of guys, they just want to make it happen for themselves. And he just sat back, turned the side by side off, and we just watched him. And they're just feeding in the middle, and I'm like, dude, they're going to be there for another 30 minutes. Like, we got time in my head. But he was like, no, like, they might be there, but they're going to hear us if we try to get up that hill. So it was definitely a learning experience to just sit there and watch and then wait and wait and wait. And then those pigs fed over and they bed down right on the lip of the barley fields and this hill. And we watched them, and we sat there for 2 hours watching them in the same spot, just looking at them. That big boar we thought was bedded down with the group. He ends up not being bedded down with them. He was a little bit further north. And Chad was behind us glassing. And I kept on looking back at Chad just to like see, if he's going to wave or anything. And all of a sudden that big boar came across, and I went, oh, holy smoke, like, that's him. And, I'm not the guide, so I'm not going to give Dylan the okay. He's like, should I shoot him? And I'm like, I think so, but we should wait. We should just wait. And like Chad's like running down the hill towards us, and he's like pointing at it. And I'm like, I know, but I'm not going to give him the okay. Like,
right.
I'm just a video guy, man.
Like, I'm just here. I'm just happy to be here.
I'm like, I do not want to step on anybody's toes or anything like that. I'm just like, try to ignore me, essentially. I just want to be incognito. And so he got all set up on it, and a shot just did not present itself. And that pig bedded right down, and we sat there for another hour or so watching it. And we had a couple times where we're sitting there talking, kind of, bullshitting and stuff. And then corner of my eye, I catch something moving, and I'm like, I like look over, pick up my binos, and I'm like, oh, Chad, there's a coyote right there. And that coyote just working right along the lip, right towards the pigs. And I go, I think it's going to happen. He goes, yeah, me too. Get the camera ready. So I get the camera rolling. I get my digiscope all set up on my binos. I have like the Olin adapter and stuff, so I can get the kill shot, and I can get my buddy's reaction. I put the camera kind of between my legs. It was actually a really cool setup that I kind of managed to do. And that coyote went right underneath that big boar by 5 yards. Looked at the pig. I saw it. I got it on camera. He looks at the pig and just walked off. Nothing happened. We sat there.
That pig was
out cold. And he's only 15 yards, 20 yards from the other group of pigs up above him. So I was kind of like, what the heck? Like, none of them smelled. I mean, it was raining. So, their scent is definitely, not carrying as much, but still, like, you walked right up on it. And that was just, Chad's like, I have not seen that before. I've seen him kind of go mess with them every once in a while, but like to walk right by and nothing happen is kind of odd. 20 minutes later, another coyote, same direction, comes across that hillside, and this time goes between the pig and the group of pigs, and looked at both of them. Nothing happened. I got that on film too. And I'm sitting there, we were both, guns just hot, looking at the pig, like, stand up, and he's hammered. Like, that's all we needed is for him to stand up. Obviously nothing happened. So Chad started throwing out some pig calls, trying to get that thing to just stand up. And it stood up, didn't present an opportunity for my buddy to pull the trigger. And I was trying to find it in the camera, and kind of came up over the hill, looked at the group of pigs, and then turned to his left and just beelined it straight down the lip of the canyon. And Chad just like looked at me, and I'm looking at Chad, I'm looking at Dylan. We're all like, wait, what? It just took off. And Chad's like, I did not expect that. And we hiked a little ways. trying to see if maybe it just stopped, 50, 100 yards away or whatever. And Dylan sees it flash, and it is probably a good mile away by now. And it was, 5-10 minutes ish. That thing was already a mile away, easily, just still running. Chad just looks at us and goes, "Meet me on the road," and just took off running down down the hill, grabbed us side by side, and we met him on the road, and he just took off. And so he was going towards that gap that you were telling me about. We pull up that gap, and he's trying to get up on top of the hill so we can get another vantage point. And that pig just happens to be crossing that little gap right at the same time. So Dylan hops out, tries to get all set up on it, and his gun. Oh wait, no, I got to backtrack a little bit. Sorry, I got carried away there. We went to a different point, drove down, cut that pig off, got up on top of the hill, and we were waiting for it to come across that lip. And my buddy got all set up. It was 300 yards, and Chad goes, "Aim exactly at that opening, and I'm going to stop that pig right there, and you're just going to shoot it." He goes, "Sounds good." 300 yards, it's a gimme, perfect setup. That pig crosses. He goes, "Hey!" And that pig just stops and looks at him, looks our way at 300 yards, and my buddy goes, "Click." Just a dry fire. I mean, a light primer strike.
Light primer strike, yeah.
Yep, just did not fire. So he re-racks it, pops it, throws it back, and that pig starts to go up over the hill. And he tried to get set up and shot and missed. And obviously we were all super bummed. So we just start hauling ass to the side by side, get in it. Chad takes off, and we go to that gap. And that's when that pig crossed that gap. He got another opportunity, got set up, click. He forgot to put another round in after he shot that previous shot. So then Chad's just like, "Oh my gosh," and I'm pissed. Dylan is beyond embarrassed and pissed, and it was just a whole shit show of events. And Chad's like, this is done. Like, he's going to try still. So we come down that road, come back down, hit the main road. And he's just literally, we're going like 5 miles an hour, 5-10 miles an hour, just putt. And then all of a sudden he just throws it down, and that pig crossed the road, and Chad raced up on it. And we actually got in front of the pig and turned it to go up a canyon. We got set up, and it was a perfect canyon for my buddy to get out, take his time. We got the tripod all set up, and that pig had nowhere to go. And he shot it and got a good shot on it and dropped it.
Dude, that's so awesome. See, some people, like, it's easier when you're not the hunter, but like, it's sometimes it's nice to have like those harder hunts that it's like, because then it makes you really appreciate it. Like battling rain and mud and missed opportunities, and then getting to see pigs bedded, and then like thinking it's not going to happen, and then it happens, and then it doesn't happen, and then it finally happens, and you're like, "Oh, thank God."
Man, dude, the sigh of relief. I mean, it was literally like the weight of the world was lifted off.
Yeah.
Especially my shoulders. I know Chad was feeling it. Dylan was, so thankful. I mean, it's a lot of money. Pig hunting is not a cheap hunt. And
no, not anymore. It's not.
No. And so, you go to these hunts, and people just expect that they're going to get one. Most of the time you do. It is not a crazy hard hunt, but it can be. And that's what we learned. And Dylan learned almost the hard way. So we were very happy at the end of it. And, those guys, I mean, they were just, the crew that Chad has put together, all amazing individuals. And we had a blast. And then the guys that came out, I mean, Dylan, Andrew, stand-up humans. They're both professional race car drivers and stuff. So they had so many cool stories, and yeah, we just had an all around just blast, just getting to know each other and stuff. So
Did he mention when I had told him about the hunt, like there's good possibility you could be doing like 60 miles an hour
oh
trying
yeah.
to, was he like, oh yeah, this is what Preston was talking
Oh
about?
yeah, yeah, this is what's really funny is that because of how slick those roads got. I mean, it didn't rain that much. I mean, it rained, probably maybe 2.5 inches over those 2 days. So a good amount of rain for sure. But my goodness, those roads, you would have thought there were 10 inches of rain on.
Well, it's
They were
that
so
clay. It's that clay.
so slick, dude.
Oh, dude, if that country out there even thinks about getting any moisture on it, it's like you grow about 10 inches when you walk in it, and then it just gums your tires up, and you're just sliding
Yeah.
everywhere.
So that's exactly what happened. So we're going down these hills, just sliding out, and Hunter's like steering it, and Dylan is a drift racer, so he drifts cars for a living, and so he's like, "Oh yeah, like let's go!" And he has you got to meet him sometime. He is just the funnest dude to be around, and those guys are just such a hoot, man. I mean, it was just so much fun. And Hunter, he's quiet, but he was you could tell he was having a great time. Big old smile on his face. He's cracking jokes with us. Like it was just cool. It was really cool.
Well, I'm glad you guys had a good time. It seemed like Oakstone, the Oakstone hunt, kind of seemed like that was kind of like how your seven season went.
Yeah. Yeah, it was came down to the wire, to say the
That's
least.
right. I mean, down to the very last day.
Yep. Very last day, within the last couple hours. Yeah.
And that's what I was going to ask you on this podcast is for the listeners, it's like, you're new to this. So like, this is your third season of actual hunting big game. So I'm curious to know, like, what were some of the things this year that you've learned over the last 2 years that obviously you used into this season, and then things that you didn't know that you picked up on this season, obviously from, having to grind it out to the last day.
So, I chose to kind of make my season a little longer, and I chose to make my season a little longer. It was I had on opening morning. I had kind of my target buck that I was actually kind of going for, and I chose not to because I hadn't really gotten a chance to like hunt past opening weekend the past couple years. So I knew I wanted to kind of risk it a little bit and learn something new. Actually, like hunt an October buck, and man, did I could not find that target buck, and so there was a couple other deer that I turned up that were pretty nice, but nothing that I was really like super excited about. I did end up pulling the trigger on that 3x3, which was the oldest deer. I've been watching that deer for like 3 or 4 years. And when I found him originally, he was a 3x3. And so I know he was right around that 5, 6 year old mark. So he was definitely a mature buck, and he wasn't getting any bigger. And so I put him on my list of like, if I don't find anything that I'm like jumping up and down for, that is a very nice buck, and he's old, and I know he's not getting any bigger. So that's kind of, what I did learn was I get I learned that if I have a buck that I actually am like really interested about killing at the ranch, it doesn't matter if it's opening day or the last day. Shoot it. And what I will do for the future seasons is if I have a buck that I want like that one, I will shoot it, and then I will learn uh, as much as I can. But some years are going to be opening morning. Some days are going to be the last day of the season, and I'm going to spend my time else on public, or, somewhere else,
Yeah.
and just learn that way. I mean, I should not have passed that buck. I shouldn't have, and I'm a little bummed about it. I really did want to shoot that buck, but I wanted to also give myself the opportunity to try to see if I could turn something else up. And yeah, I don't know. I just shoot it if you have the opportunity to, if you're interested in it, and hold out if you're not. I mean, there's
Right.
no harm in it. And then find the best buck that you can later in the season.
Well, I remember like when you said you found that big 3 point, the one that you wanted to shoot that you saw on opening day. Obviously, if you think about it, like if that buck was one that you really, really wanted, you would have shot him right then and there. There would have been a no-brainer, no questions about it. It would have been like, yep. But in your head, like the way you were describing to me is like, I've seen the potential of what shows up, like the week after, the season closes or like towards the end. And so like I always look at it like, if that buck doesn't speak to you like right now, like if it's one, like if you're hunting a private ranch, obviously, where you're trying to manage it, and that deer does not like come out and be like, yep, that's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Then obviously you probably made the right choice. You know what I mean? And then you shot a
Yeah.
buck, obviously, at the end that, was a good management deer that, wasn't going to get any bigger. And he was staying the same frame the last, 3 or 4 years. And so it was like, that's a good one to take out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you could have the potential of killing a monster. You know what I mean? Especially with those storms that came rolling through. You just never know what's going to just show up. And then the rut kicked in.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Like, I was really hoping that those storms would do something, and they didn't.
Yeah.
We are too low for that. If we had a storm like what we just had this last week, where it was a multi-day kind of thing, guaranteed. When I go up to the ranch this weekend, I'm going to see a ton of new deer. I already know it because it happens every year.
Yeah.
And now we're later into November, where those bucks are losing their minds right now. I already know it. And we just didn't get that. If we had that earlier storm like this, maybe, but I just don't think we're just not high enough.
Yeah.
So, there is that potential, but the chances are so much smaller than what it's not really worth banking on that. And that's kind of what I learned, because we did get that early storm and everyone's killing big deer up in the mountains, and I'm sitting there going, oh man, I'm hoping I'm finding something on the ranch, because that's what I was holding out for, was a storm like that. But we have to have a very significant storm to really push those deer as low as I am.
Right. Like I noticed one thing this year, talking to you throughout the season, I noticed this seemed to be a little more of a frustrating season for you. Obviously, that mid-season low where it was like you couldn't pay to find a deer. Like now probably
Couldn't
like,
find a shooter buck.
or a shooter buck, right? Yeah,
For what I really
right. Yeah, let me rephrase that: a shooter buck. Yeah,
I was finding deer all over.
Yeah, just not the right buck. Yeah. So how did that? I mean, obviously, like you said, the first 2 seasons, they were like, it was fairly quick hunts. It was just kind of like you shot them and it was done. And it's like, what were like now, obviously having a season where you had to grind to the last day, like what are some of the, like your feelings on that? Like, obviously being a new hunter, like what went through your mind? Like not getting one, or like,
I was pretty emotional. I was so stressed, dude. And like, I was going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the only guy on private land that can't kill a buck. I came down to the last day and I'm like, I passed the day before on, I think it was that 3x3 that we had saw that one day when we were up there. And it was, he's a nice 22, 23 inch wide 3x3, but he's young. And I
yeah,
did not want to shoot him. And I thought he was a different buck when I first made my move on him. Kind of got a flash of him when he turned around on me and he was, chasing some does. And I was with my buddy Matt, and I go, that's a big buck. And he goes, yeah, that's a giant. And we got it on the spine. I think he had folded his ears back or
oh yeah,
something like that. And so he looked wider than he was. So when I made my move, got on him at like 290 or whatever, and I got set up and looking at him, and I'm looking at him, and I had him right in my crosshairs, and I'm like, no, this can't be the same buck. Like, and with further investigation, we had taken a couple photos and stuff with the spotting scope, and I was like, think that is that buck. So I passed on him, and we were only getting those cool mornings. They were rutting, pre-rutting, and if you hit 9 o'clock, it was done the rest of the day. Those deer were not moving at all, the rest of the day. I mean, come sunset, there was still nothing moving. We did not find. I think we found one buck in like 4 days that was actually on his feet, and me and Matt spread out to different areas, driving around the ranch, hitting big glass and spots. We tried it all over the last 4 days, and it just was not working. And he literally told me, he goes, I'm actually starting to get worried for you, because this is like not easy right now. And everyone else is, guys are sending me giant buck pictures up in the mountains. I'm sitting there like on a ranch going, are you kidding me? Like, what's going on here? I've been watching these deer for months, and like, you do this every single day, and now all of a sudden you just turned off. And everyone has talked about hunting October bucks and how hard that is, and I really wanted to kind of put myself through that. Granted, obviously it's on private, so everyone's going to be like, oh, it's easier than us. Like, I know it is, but still, I got to feel that stress of I might not find the right one. Thankfully, that 3x3 did present himself, and I was able to take him. And he's mature, and that's what I wanted. I wanted an older buck. I was not going to shoot a 3-year-old buck.
Well, and two, like, this year you really hunted hard. Like, you hunted a lot more than you normally do. And, more. If you think about it, like, something that you might want to pick up from this is like, those deer, have never had that much pressure on your ranch, like actively hunting them. You know what I mean? Like, I noticed one thing, like when I went over there that last weekend with you, when I brought my boys, I could see the powdered dirt in the road. And I was like, dude, Mason's been running these roads hard. And that little bit of pressure will just brush them up. They'll just, like, before, you catch them laying off the side of the road or like out and about, and you see them, and then with that little bit of pressure that they don't normally get, they'll actually get them to not want to normally bed where they're at. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of gets them to a little uneasy. You know what I mean? And then it makes it harder.
Yeah, well, it didn't help because, I was driving a couple roads that I would been seeing them a lot, but we had all of our cowboys come back. So now we have 6 more guys with trucks and side by side, 5 or 6 guys driving around also all day long. Checking waters, checking fence, fixing this, bringing backhoes up that same road, doing work. And I'm sitting there going, oh no, like
you couldn't wait another week.
I like, please, like, and my dad's like, oh, the cattle are coming in. I'm like, yeah, like, they have to come in. Like, it's not Mason's hunting ranch.
It's a cattle ranch first.
It's a cattle ranch first.
Yeah, that's why cowboys and hunters have never gotten along, because cattlemen are always like, I don't care about those animals. I care about my cows. And then hunters are like, I don't care about your cows. I don't want them here. I want the deer here.
Yeah. But so, yes, I mean, me and Matt just split up, and I was hitting like the west side of the ranch. He was hitting kind of the east side, and dude, we were dry. We spent hours glassing. Oh my gosh, hours glassing, hiking different spots. I hiked a couple canyons. I had an opportunity to shoot this nice 3x3. And I passed on him because I still had like 5 days left. And I was like, he's not really the one that I want. And then towards the end of the day, or towards the end of the season, I'm looking at anything. I'm like, I'll shoot a forky. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I'll just fill the freezer. And like, now I kind of understand everyone's, where everyone gets that fill the freezer thing, because I don't need the meat, but actually this year I kind of do need the meat. I am making wild game burgers for my wedding, and I had been banking on 2 deer, and
Right.
with my backcountry hunt going, kaploops, it I only had one chance, and then my fiance is looking at me like, just shoot a buck. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, it does matter. I am managing this ranch. Like, I'm not just going to shoot a buck.
Right.
She's like, we need meat. And
Like, I'll get us meat. Just relax.
I'm like, don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I'm trying my best.
I'll start a GoFundMe page or something for deer meat. I'll figure it out.
I will get us meat. Don't worry. So
Well,
anyway,
so by hunting the whole season, did it force you to get out of your comfort zone to have to go to like different places you don't normally hunt your ranch?
Oh yeah. Try different things. Yeah, I set up a couple two cameras and some different spots just to see if things were crossing this little ridge differently, and they were. I actually found where this one buck that I was interested in during preseason, where he was crossing, and he was on my hit list until I saw him hard horned, and I was like, he's too young. He was a nice 4x2, technically a 4x3 if you
Count the
like
little
that.
crab.
A little crab claw, and he had a little drop kicker. He looked big in velvet, but he was too young. So I gave him a pass. But I figured out where pretty much his home was, which was cool. So I got to figure out that. I got to see some other spots, and I hiked a couple different ridges, and we're trying like the backside of places that I don't normally hunt, and just like even just driving a different road. And that's kind of, I was like, what am I got to lose here? Like, look for something different. I did take your advice, and you were like, hey, drive a couple roads that you don't normally do. Try something different,
right?
Because you never know. And those October bucks are not doing what they were doing in August.
No. Well, they separate themselves from the bachelor groups. You know what I mean? Like they're starting to get into that behavior, wanting to get into the rut. They're going to start to become solitary. And then obviously bigger bucks are lazy. Like they're just not going to get up. And so if they don't bed where they normally do, or they get away from their bachelor groups, then they become spread out, and then it's hard to find them. You know what I mean? And it's good that you went through that, because, like what we talked about in the last podcast between private and public, like it's a good, this is a great scenario for like new hunters to understand. It's like, and even older hunters, like you get a guy that hunts the same piece of, public that he's hunted his entire life, and that's where he's always hunted. And then he's like, whether that be private or public, and they're like, wow, we didn't see any deer this year. It's like, well, dude, move. Like, cover country. Go out of your comfort zone, just because that's the area but if you're not seeing what you're looking for, get out of that comfort zone and force yourself to go to another part of the ranch that you normally wouldn't hunt, or go to a different area on public and go find something different, because you never know what's around the next corner or behind the next ridge or behind that rock, or, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's cool to see you like have to go through the whole season and then get into that middle part of the season where it's like, I'm not finding the deer that I thought I was going to find. And then the ones I had on my hit list are no longer here. So then it makes you really have to rack your brain and really, like bust out your notes and sit there and just be like, okay, where do I need to go? What do I have to do to find a deer? You know what I mean? Like the right deer or a deer, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then there's that pressure of getting towards the end of the season that you dealt with, where it's like, man, I don't know if I'm even going to get one now. You know what I mean? Did I make the right choice? And it's like, I always say, go with your gut. Like if you made a decision to pass on a deer, you can't kill giants if you kill big deer, and you can't kill big deer if you shoot little deer. So if you're fine with shooting the first buck you see, then do that. But if you're looking for exceptional deer, whether that's on public or private, you made the right decision by not shooting the deer that you did, Plus it forced you to like really have to hunt hard this year and figure them out.
Oh yeah. I had to cancel so many different plans the last week, and I was just like,
That's welcome to hunting.
Nope.
If you're a deer hunter, there's been a lot of plans canceled. Yep. Yeah. Jesus could have been in town. You'd have been like, nope.
It would have been hard, man.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I know this is going to be the one time you show up, but I'm not going to be there because I still have 2 days left. Now, if I shoot one tonight, I'll be there tomorrow, but probably not going to be there.
Yeah. Oh man. And my brother's wedding, and then I had my grandpa's funeral, and we had another funeral. I had a couple funerals and weddings, and like yeah, it's been like not just the hunting was hard. It's been honestly, it's been pretty hard on my life the last couple months.
Right.
Lost a lot of close people, and so it really kind of spun me for a loop the last little bit, and hunting really helped me kind of, or not just being outside, just sitting there and just trying to think and process everything because I've been so busy with my business stuff, and now with the podcast and hunting
Right.
season, it's like it's go go go, and I have a full time job. It's like I got to sit down and I got to process what's going on,
Yeah.
and so at least I was able to do that while I was out in the woods, and it ended up turning out all right. So I was all fine and dandy, but man, I was sitting there going, everything in my life is falling apart. I have like nothing good going on. Like this is crazy. Like
Well,
sad, sad me. And then I like pulled through.
but what's
Yeah.
kind of cool is like how how you finish the season out. Like you were just saying, like how you lost your grandfather, and then it's like how you were saying, like you finished the season out alone. You know what I mean? Like when you killed your buck, and that had to be kind of cool to like just have that moment for yourself and to like look around on your family's property and just being like, being like the fourth generation on that place, and it's like knowing that your grandfather's looking down on you, and you're just like, that had to have been kind of cool. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, you want to have somebody to share it with, but like everything that you went through, I think it's kind of a neat experience to like just have that moment of just like solitude where you're by yourself, you killed your buck, and then you get to like kind of have that like somber moment where you like soak it in and like look around, and then just like knowing that like your grandfather's looking down on you out of heaven, and it's like, like he sees his grandson like enjoying the ranch for what it's worth. You know what I mean? And it's like, so that's got to be kind of a cool feeling. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong, but
No, no, you're right. And it's, I lost my grandpa 2 or 3 weeks before or after our ranch manager, who was like family to us. So he lived on the property for 30 years and knew me my
holy cow.
entire life. And he's the one that kind of pushed me to get into hunting. So he was like my first hunting mentor. And then, he really sparked my interest in mule deer. And he was actually probably the biggest proponent of me actually being able to hunt deer on the ranch, because he went to my grandpa and was able to convince him to let me start deer hunting. So, a little backstory on that is when my great grandfather purchased the ranch, deer were like his favorite animals. So he made a rule that nobody ever in our family was allowed to hunt deer. And my grandpa held on to that rule, and I honored that and never once thought twice. But I came to him one day and I said, "Hey, I'm going to start hunting deer somewhere. I would love to hunt deer here if you would allow me." And he's told me, he's like, "Hey, make a business or make a management plan or have some sort of plan in place." He was always that kind of guy. If you came to him for a business thing or whatever, he needed to see a business plan or some sort of plan that you had. And I talked to Ed. I did research. Ed had conversations with my grandpa. I built out a little plan with Ed, and we kind of proposed it to my grandpa. And my grandpa said, "Okay, cool. You can take one deer off the ranch, and you and your brother. My brother is not really into hunting that much, so he has yet to take a deer. So I've been doing it, and kind of gave me the reins on being able to choose what is harvested for any species on the ranch, and kind of giving me the power to choose who's hunting, when hunts are going on. And so I get to manage the pig population, the turkey populations. If I say this is a great year, we can shoot 10 birds. Okay. If I say this is not a good year, we're going to shoot 2 birds. That's it. So it's just cool.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Like you said, like this whole season was, a big learning curve for you. And like you said, you learned a lot. hunting the entire 44 days. You know what I mean? Like not every day, but obviously through the 44 days of the season, and from seeing bucks to not seeing bucks to then being like, I'm not going to even fill my tag, to then finishing it out alone. You know what I mean? Like, and we've all been there as hunters. You know what I mean? Like, you're like turn around to give somebody a high five, and you're like, there's no one here. It's like, well, this is for me,
Yeah.
And so then but it makes it. I honestly think sometimes it's better to shoot a deer by yourself, to like really soak that in. Like it's a big deal, especially when you hunt really hard to get one. You know what I mean?
It
And when it
did.
happens,
It was very satisfying. I got to skin everything out by myself. I had no help. Like just soaked up everything, and then I actually loaded the deer up into the side by side. So I packed it, put it into my game bags, brought it up, put it in the side by side, and then I drove it down. And we have a little like shrine that we made for Ed with a bunch of deer antlers and stuff. And I actually just posted that picture on Instagram. And that was my time. I got to sit and literally I just sat there and I got to show Ed my buck. And that's what I had done with my last couple bucks. And it was just really cool. Like I just like, you just feel it. And
right?
yeah, you just feel it. And it was just cool.
That shrine that you guys built for him is pretty cool, especially that spot. Like
Yeah.
that was a neat deal. You know what I mean? Like
We call that Ed's lake or Ed's pond anyway. So it just fit because he was, I don't know. That's just a little remembrance thing for him.
yeah. And that's cool that you took your buck by there and like showed him. You know what I mean? Like and just sat with him for a while. You know what I mean? Like that's why we hunt. That right there. You know what I mean? Like our mentors. You know what I mean? Like we all have mentors growing up or starting. Whether you start when you're 5 or whether you start when you're 50 or even 60. Like somebody at one point is going to mentor you, and that's the person you look up to. You know what I mean? And whether they're still here or not, like it's just like I don't think that people that understand hunting like will never understand like what that means to us as hunters. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
even though like physically he's not here, but he's still here, and to like
Yeah.
sit with him at his place on the ranch with your buck is cool, and that's
Yeah.
something that you'll do for the rest of your life.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
you know. And then if you ever have kids, like that's something that I'm sure you'll pass on to your kids to be like, hey, like we stop here when we kill a buck. Like this is where we're going to stop every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, dude. Like, I'm really pumped for you, dude. Like, I knew like the phone calls of getting phone calls. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. What am I doing wrong? I'm like, you're not doing anything wrong. It's hunting. They're either there or they're not. And they are where they are. Like, that's why I tell everybody they are where they are. And you're going to eventually find one. Just trust the process, and then eventually it'll happen,
Yeah.
And if it didn't happen, like, that's okay too. Like, it's okay to put a tag in your pocket and, you know what I mean, and frame it. It doesn't. We don't always like it, but you know what I mean. Like it happens.
Yeah.
Well, congrats, dude, on a heck of a deer, man. That was a really nice buck. He's a pretty deer. Like he's just a really good, like badass buck, dude. I like him, dude. He's just got those big fronts, big eye guards, heavy. Just like he's a bitchin' deer.
Yeah, he's cool. I'm very happy with him.
Plus, I'm partial to big 3-pointers. I really like beautiful, big, heavy 3-pointers. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they can look ugly, like just spindly, like, like pencil horn bucks. Like, I'm not a real big fan of those, but like big, heavy 3-pointers, like big eye guards. Like, when you sent me a picture, I was like, dang it, dude, I like that deer. And I think I even told you when you sent me the picture of him alive, I'm like, why didn't you shoot him? I was like, dude, you're crazy. Like, I would have shot that deer right now.
Yeah.
But I'm also a blacktail hunter, so that's a giant blacktail. I'd have been like, oh, stop the truck right now.
Yeah. There's just big deer, man. There's big deer around, and it's just kind of finding them.
So now on this season, did you learn something? Like, I know that we had talked about like what you see after the season. Does that kind of put something in perspective for you to like now know that like it's hard because when you see what shows up in the rut and obviously like November, December, does that give you more of perspective of like what you should be looking for, like realistically on the ranch as far as the caliber of bucks you're looking for? Or you still think that like those true giants are there? You just haven't found where they're living yet.
I think that there's got to be 1 or 2 on that ranch every year that is significant, and it's just finding it. And
Yeah.
we have so many pockets, so it's so steep on one side and it's super flat on the other, and there's no way to glass really um, into that west side unless you're up on that one point, and that's it. That's your only glassing spot on that side. Otherwise, you're just either driving around, you're hoping to bump something, or me and my buddies have shed hunted it, and we've done hikes in there, we've done stuff, and there's just the deer density down in that part of the ranch is just very slim.
Right.
So it's hard to hunt that because you have to cover so much ground, and there's just not like hardly any deer. Then on the other side of the ranch, it's so steep. And so it's hard to, when you glass something up, to actually get there in time.
Right.
And, with there not being the weather, those bucks aren't moving around like they usually do. So if I don't, and this is where, like, if I find a giant buck, it has to be in velvet. It would have to be in velvet for the most part. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to hunt it because I just don't. I mean, I spend so much time up there. And so for me, like, my scouting and stuff is almost year round. I am always up there. And so if I can't find a buck that I'm willing to shoot as soon as season comes around, I'm up there so often. I should have seen something, in my
Right.
opinion. And maybe I just didn't look in the right spots this year. And it varies year to year. I mean, I have pictures like, I've sent you, I have 30+ inch buck that I passed on my first year hunting, and I didn't know what I was looking at. And that's just because I didn't know. And then the next year, there was a 5x3 that my buddy took a picture of, and it was all in season, but I had nothing like that this year.
Right.
And it's just like all over the place, you see big bucks, and then sometimes you just don't see them. And I just did not see them this year. And maybe it was me, maybe it was them. I don't know. That'll be for me to kind of continue figuring out as I continue to hunt. But man, I put so many hours in with Matt and a couple of my other buddies. Like, I know we should have turned up something that significant if it was there.
So do you feel like this season you didn't leave any stones unturned or no regrets?
Nah, not really. Not really. I learned a lot. My goal was to learn and hopefully kill a really big buck, but I know it will happen one of these years with what I learned this year, with camera placement stuff, with different ridges, look Onyx and Go Hunt maps and the research tools, and like playing around with Google Earth. I use all three of those, and just looking at things differently, like trying to figure out, like, okay, wait, I've never been into that pocket before. And actually, this is a great, cool example. Um, we were trying to think of things differently. And I told Matt that we had about 2 weeks left of season. I'm like, I need to figure out something different. And I ended up coming in with my rifle to the backside of this ridge and walked down in this super steep spot that I had kind of scouted on my maps, and it literally was straight down, and it had at the bottom, like probably a couple 100 feet, there was a little lip to it. And I was like, that little spot just reminds me of something that a big buck might hide in. And I walked in 100 yards and I bumped up a nice forky. Boom. And I went, okay. And I backed out. I went, okay, this is a spot I need to figure out how to glass into, because if that buck's there, there might be something else around here. And I didn't want to spook anything else anymore. I answered my own question within 2 minutes of walking in there. And I was like, all right, cool. And I did actually the same thing in another spot. Hadn't really been there, walked in there, boom, bumped up a nice buck, went, all right, I'm out. I'm done. And I just backed out, and I'm like, okay, that's a spot that I'm going to be glassing. And so I kind of did that with a couple areas that I'm like, okay, this is something that I haven't done. And then if I answered my question with walking in there, first thing I see, I back out because I don't want to risk it.
Right.
And I put a camera on that ridge or on those ridges to be like, okay, maybe I'm catching something. And I did, but it wasn't anything that I was super interested in. But I answered my question that those
Yeah,
are
you
areas.
found a good bedding area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, and the good thing is you're smart. You backed out instead of just bumping and pushing them all over the place. You know, then you look across the ridge and you're like, well, dude, if I can get to that point over there, then I obviously can see this whole face. And I know deer like to come in here and bed, especially bucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, and that works for anybody in any place in the world that you hunt. Like deer hunt the same anywhere. You know what I mean? They're all the same animal. You know what I mean? Different species of deer, but they're all the same. Like it all hunts the same. You
Yeah.
know?
And this start bear hunting now. Obviously, I'm going back up to the ranch this weekend. I'm going to go at least try my luck for a day or something like that. And I've been hunting differently and been walking down some of these roads that have really good vantage points up these hills. And dude, I'm like, why am I not doing this during deer season? Why did I not do this? And so now I'm like thinking even more differently. And all this type of hunting, like I'm bumping pigs out of this spot where I'm like, I've never seen pigs there before. Why would you be there? Like it, the ranch is so different. Like I see hot spots of pigs and more of the flat or steep stuff in certain parts of the ranch. But then this part of the ranch, it's like you don't normally see things. But I'm kicking things up and I'm seeing things moving and I'm just trying to do things differently in order to find these bears because I've never bear hunted really before. I've only
Right.
killed one bear and it was just a kind of a fluke and it was a big bear. Now I'm actually trying to figure it out. And
Well, right now, your best bet on bears is now obviously we've had a lot of rain and we're getting green grass. So those north face slopes right now that are getting real green and acorns. That's where they're going to
The
be.
acorns and the grass are all green, and the acorns are on the ground. So literally, it does not help me because it could be anywhere and
They could be
everywhere.
anywhere now. They're going to be spread out.
It's like, oh, great,
But the
okay,
good thing with that green grass is you're going to actually, honestly, you might get more of like a spring bear action. You know what I mean? Like,
mm,
before, like right now, usually it's dead. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
but like now, obviously, you're going to have to cover some country. But I mean, shoot, you should be able to kill a pretty good bear.
oh yeah,
You
I
watch, you're
hope
going to
so.
kill one in that hole that we were looking at that day, that big steep
I
hole in the
know,
bottom.
I know. At least I'm going with a buddy this weekend, so I
When you kill him down there, you can thank me
oh,
while
I'm
you're
calling you too, and you can come
yeah.
get me, and then I'll thank you.
Unfortunately, I have to work this weekend.
Oh, sure you do. That's what
Yeah.
every one of my friends is going to say when I show them where it's killed.
Right.
Sorry, I'm
Yeah. Yeah. I
working.
can't make it.
Well, dude, do you want to talk about your Alaska hunt?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So this year I got to do Kodiak Island at a Larson Bay for Sitka blacktail, which has been a bucket list hunt of mine for a lot of years. Which honestly was like it was more of a pipe dream than an actual like I thought would ever become a reality. Obviously when I was younger, and then so last year my buddy Daniel he called me and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go to Kodiak Island to go hunt Sitka blacktail?" I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "Well, I didn't even tell you how much it is." I'm like, "I don't care. Like I'll figure it out." Like I have a hunting fund that I save for every year. I was like, if I can't go on a hunt for the next 2 or 3 years out of state, then that's fine with me. Like I'm going on this trip. And so we booked with Kodiak Charters out of Larson Bay, and so we had a group of guys, and then one of our buddies ended up having to back out, and so then I called my buddy Danny, who's pretty much like my dad. Like he's a guy that I look up to a lot, and has taken me hunting when I was younger, and we do a lot of hunting together, and so it was really cool to have him there. And then his son Seth came, so we had a group of 6. So we had my buddy Daniel, my buddy Kenny, Kenny's dad Jimmy, and then Danny and Seth and myself. And so when we book with Kodiak, that gets you 1 deer, 2 fox, sea ducks, and deep sea fishing. And so I had made some phone calls to people that I knew that had hunted there. My buddy Travis has hunted Larson Bay 3 times. So he was nice enough to hook me up on some spots on Onyx places that he's been to before. So I kind of had a somewhat of a game plan of where I was going to start. Obviously, I'm hunting ghost deer because the deer that he's gone in there and killed, they're now dead. But obviously, I was like, those are, got to be some pretty decent spots. Travis is a really good hunter. So, we fast forward a year, and so we decided we get the game plan together, and we booked the flights, we booked the hotel room. So obviously, people could probably do it. You could do it for fairly cheap. We flew into Kodiak, so we left on a Monday. We flew out November 3rd. So we flew from Fresno to Portland, Portland to Anchorage, and then Anchorage to Kodiak. And we had very little time in between each flights, which honestly I liked a lot better. I think our biggest layover was like 20 minutes. So, I mean, it had to be like, hopefully we were like, man, as long as we don't have any problems, which was actually kind of funny. My buddy Jimmy, my buddy Kenny's dad, Jimmy, he's flown one time. And the one time he flew, the guy went to land and forgot to put the landing gear down. And so he had to like pull up really fast to like before he crashed. So Jimmy's telling us the story. So we leave Fresno and we're just getting ready to land on the runway in Portland. And the dude just like pulls straight up and just like takes off. And everybody's like, and there's some Latin lady that was on the plane and she was going nuts. She's like, some thick Latin accent. She's like, what's going on? Am I going to die? And I'm like, you're fine. I was like, are you there? Oop.
Sorry. I don't know what the heck happened there.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're right.
Is my audio working? Okay, good.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I don't know what the heck just happened. I was trying to adjust my audio thing and then it just glitched out. Anyway, we didn't lose anything.
So anyways, she's like freaking out. She's like, what's going on? And I told her, I was like, the pilot's drunk. She's like, what? I was like, dude, I'm joking with you. You're fine. I'm like, what the heck? And I look over and Jimmy's just got this like huge eyes. And he's staring at me and he's like, what's going on? I'm like, you probably forgot to put the landing gear down. Well, there was a storm coming in. And so like the plane was coming down and dude, we were coming in hot, dude. And like the plane was like coming kind of sideways. And then so he realized like it's not good to land. So he banked up and then turned and we did a big loop around and then we came in and we landed. And I thought I was like, oh shit, I'm going to die. Like it was kind of spooky. So that was like the one hiccup we had. So like we couldn't have any hiccups or we were going to miss a flight, obviously. Yeah. So then we landed in Kodiak at 3:00 in the afternoon on Monday. And so we weren't going to fly out from Kodiak to Larson until Wednesday because our hunt started Thursday on the 6th. So it was kind of neat. So we got to like spend basically a day, 2 days, basically a half, an evening, a full day, and a morning in Kodiak, which if anybody's ever going to go to Kodiak, that's what I would do, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like kind of get to see the town. And like I had some buddies that went at the beginning of October. So they gave me some advice on places to eat. And one of the places they gave us, I would like talked it up to my buddies when we went there and it was a complete letdown. It was not good at all. I was really disappointed with the fish. Like when I ate it, I was like, so like all my buddies were eating and I'm like, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in my head, I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm just going to lie and be like, this place is just as great, right guys? Like it's really good. And I just looked at them and go, I'm not going to lie, dude. This place is horrible. They're like, this sucks, dude. And I'm like, I know. I was like, we got completely let down. So I'm just going to give a shout out.
Yeah, when you think of Alaska, you think of
fish.
Fishing and like
fish, yeah, deep sea fish, yeah. Yeah, it was the most bland fish I've ever had in my life. Like there was no seasoning. The clam chowder was like soup. It was like water. And actually, our waitress was like, "You're from California, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "I could tell." I was like, "Our clam chowder is way better." Like, I'm sorry, but your guys. Oh yeah, I was like, this is clam soup with water in it. Like, and you added like a little bit of milk for color. Like, it was horrible. So I was like, I just want to give a shout out to my friend Jason Orlop. Your recommendation of a restaurant absolutely sucks. So when you listen to this, I love you, but it sucks. And we actually went back there and ate, and I had a Mile High BLT with like a fried egg on it. That was really good. So if anybody goes to Kodiak, go eat at Henry's. Don't get the fish. get burgers and BLTs. Just don't order the fish or the scallops. Actually, the scallops are really good. I actually enjoy the scallops, but the scallops and anything else other than the fish was good. So, and then we stayed at the Best Western, which is like where everybody stays. So it's cool. Like we went to the bar the second night we were there. So like everybody started rolling in. Cause like the first night we got there was nobody. And I was like, well, dang, dude, no one's hunting this weekend or this week. And then Tuesday, everybody showed up. So it's cool. There's people from all over the world that were there going to go hunt Sitka blacktail, not just out of Larson Bay, but just on the island in general. Just, whether they're going to go on a boat or, you know what I mean? Or like they were going to get flown into like a drop camp somewhere in the backcountry of Kodiak. Obviously we did the Larson Bay thing. So it's kind of neat to see people and talk to them, and everybody there was asking us the same thing. They're like, are you hunting bears? I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't have that kind of money. And I was like, but I wish I could. But I was like, no, I'm not hunting bears. Like all the locals were like wanting you to shoot bears, obviously, because it was really weird. Like I thought, most people were like, oh, are you hunting deer? Like everybody there was like, you hunting bears. So then we called the owners on Tuesday because there was a storm coming in. So we flew out with Island Air, and it was cool. So it was a neat experience. It's a little single prop airplane. You're allowed 2,500 pounds. That's including yourself and all of your gear. And then you have to be mindful when you pack for this, because if you brought 2,500 pounds worth of gear in yourselves, then obviously you cannot bring back your meat. So you have to be very calculated on how much weight you bring on this trip. Obviously you're flying. So it can get very expensive if you're checking a ton of bags. So there were 6 of us. So just for a side note for people that are doing this trip, through Alaskan Airlines, if you're going to check 6 bags, you get 6 more. You get the next 6 for free. So we were able to check, or if there were 6 of you flying, you get to check 6 bags for free. So we were able to check our guns for free, and then 1 other bag because we doubled up our guns and cases. So technically, we got 2 bags a person for a group. You know what I mean? So it made it kind of nice. So then we flew out. So we called them. We're like, hey, there's a storm coming. Do you think that we could fly in a little earlier? And they were kind of like, I don't know about that. We'll let you know. And then we heard nothing. So then the whole time we're like, well, are we going to be able to fly? Because they're like, it's all weather dependent, whether you can fly or not. So whether you pay for a 5-day, it isn't like they're going to extend your hunt for you. So if you can't fly out of Kodiak to Larson and you're stuck in Kodiak for 2 days, that's 2 days of your hunting. So then you're only going to get 2.5 days realistically to hunt. So you really got to you bank on pray for good weather. And we hit it perfectly. So we called Island Air on Wednesday, and I told Daniel, hey, call Island Air and just see, obviously they said they could fly us out early. I wouldn't even call the owners. Let's tell them to take us out early and we'll just land on the runway and we'll just sit there until it's our time to get picked up. So we called them. They're like, yeah, your flight's at noon now. We bumped you up to noon. We're like, and it's 10:30. And we were a mile from the hotel. And I was like, we got to go. So we took off running, grabbed all of our stuff, got a taxi, got there, paid for the flight or whatever. So you got to pay. Each person has to pay for their flight for a one-way flight from Kodiak to Larson Bay. And dude, that was the absolute most epic, coolest trip in a flight that I've ever had. Because dude, so everybody's getting on the plane and everybody's like, you know what, Preston, you could sit up front. So I got to sit up front and I had the little headphones on with a little deal. I so bad wanted to be I so did. I want to do the Top Gun thing where I was requesting a flyby. And then I was like, he's like, no, you're not doing that. And I was like, okay. So we take off. And when you're flying, it's not like you're super high, dude. We were literally flying through the canyons. The trees are right there. And dude, it was just and then I've never been there. So it's brand new the whole time, dude. And it was just I was in awe. And I took videos and it doesn't do it justice. That island is so beautiful. And there's so many little lakes and ponds and creeks and rivers and just it was wild. You know what I mean? It was just such the most coolest experience I've ever had. And just and we flew in, it was beautiful day. It was just bluebird skies you could see for absolute miles. And so we come out, we go over the ocean and you can see the mainland of Alaska. And then you bank real hard to the left and then you start coming in. And then there's the town of Larson Bay. And they had this big, huge white building that kind of came out on the water. this big red roof, and that's the salmon cannery, and it's been there for over 100 years. And they do millions of pounds of salmon a year. And actually, Randy and Terry, the owners of Kodiak, their son is a commercial salmon fisherman. And I think I want to say he did this year. I think he did like 1 million or 2 million pounds of salmon this year.
Holy smoke.
Yeah, so it's a big fishing community. Like that's where they do most of the stuff. So then it was pretty cool. Like when you're coming into Larson Bay, like you make this big bank, and then you come up and there's like a cliff, and then there's just this dirt runway, and as we're landing, there's a Sitka blacktail. So I had never seen one in person in my life, and there's just this doe standing on the runway, and I was like, that's my first Sitka blacktail. I was like, this is awesome, dude. And they're such pretty deer. They're like this golden brown color with a double white throat patch. And so we land. Randy and Terry come and pick us up, and then so we load our stuff up in their truck and their van, and it's not a big city, and they have one cop, and he's also the game warden. His name is Mr. Boring, and and I think he's from I want to say that they said he's from Washington, so like he comes out for like I think it's like 1 week a month or something like that, and then obviously if the weather is not permitted, then he can't fly, then he's stuck there. So like. And they have one that's like the one law enforcement in the whole town. You know what I mean? Like there's no crime. You know what I mean? Like it's just like this there might be a few hundred people that live there, if that, and most of it's just hunters that are coming in and going or fishermen. So we pull up, and so we didn't do the boat experience. We did a lodge experience. So we paid for the lodging and meals, and they're not a guide service, so they can't guide you, but they are a transporting. So they'll take you out on the boat. They'll take you to a spot, and then, then they drop you off, and then you hunt. So we get there, and, Randy was telling us, like, oh, if you look across the bay, there's this big mountain. And he goes, you could start glassing or whatever, and I'm sure you'll find deer. And it didn't take 30 seconds. And I was like, there's some deer. There's some deer. And then they're like 2 miles away. And then I glassed up a buck, and I was telling my buddy Daniel, I'm like, that's a good frame deer. Like you could see frame. And so we glassed till dark, which was only like 20 minutes, and obviously we're new. So like it's like everybody's excited, and we get in there. And so then Randy comes in that night, and he's like, so what he does is he comes in every night, and he'll ask you like, okay, where do you want to go in the morning? So I had picked a pin that Travis had showed me, and he goes, nope, I'm not taking you there. And I was like, well, you're wrong. You're taking me to that spot. And he's like, nope. I stay in the bay. And I'm like, that you're not. Like, so we kind of like bumped heads for a second. And I'm like, dude, I paid money, and I'm not asking you to take me an hour. It's literally right out of the bay. So he's like, well, how do you know about that spot? And I told my buddies hunted here before. And then he goes, that's actually a really good spot. And I'm like, well, then take me there. He goes, all right, I'll take you there. Well, then I found out later, because we were on a full moon, the tides get really high and low fast. So what happens is that was going to be a high tide in the morning. So when the water rises, all the deadfall that's on the beaches ends up getting pulled out into the bay. So he doesn't want to drive the boat because of safety reasons. He doesn't want to hit logs or can't see. So I was like, okay, I understand now why. At first I thought, I was like, this guy's jerking me around. But obviously once we started talking, I realized it's because of safety issues. So we go out in the morning, and the first day we were there, we all decided we were going to stay together. And then Kenny's dad, once we got there, he realized, he's like, dude, there's no way I'm going to be able to hike this country because it is steep, like really steep country. So he's like, I'm going fishing. So he went fishing almost every day we were there. So we get there, and we get dropped off, and we're trying to navigate. So when you get dropped off on the beach, and one thing I noticed when I got there, I was like, dude, I'm at home. Like, this is a lot like the same country I hunted home. So I'm like, dude, this is perfect. Like, I already know how to hunt this country. I already had just steep, very, very steep, lots of brush. So where I hunt is very steep and brushy and full of poison oak. So I always tell people, I said, I traded out poison oak, the Mother Nature's herpes, to thick alders with 2,000-pound grizzly bears. Like, which I could have done without the grizzly bears. So for us, like when we got there, I was like, dude, we just got to get to the top. Like as soon as we get to the top, we'll be fine. Like we just got to get out of this brush. So like the first probably 500 to 600 feet is thick, and it sucks. Like, it's brutal, and it will beat you down physically if you're not in shape. And Danny is 70 years old. And I will give you this, that dude is an animal, because he hiked with us every single day, packing out bucks. And never once did he be like, I can't go out today, guys. Like, he hunted hard every day. Like, I told him, I said, one day whenever I get to 70, if I'm half the man that you are, like, I'll be good. Because, dude, at 70 years old, that dude humped in some of the most treacherous terrain and kept up with us. Yeah, dude, he's an animal. So we decided the first day we'll kind of stick together, we'll get up above, and then we'll kind of spread out. So we're hiking up this ridge, and we're going up, and we've seen some does, and we're watching them, and obviously they're rutting, so, we were kind of seeing if like a buck would show up with them. And the first deer we saw were does. We didn't see any bucks. And then this ridge is kind of like stair-stepped up, so it could go up, hit a flat, and then it'd go up, hit a flat, and then it'd go up and hit a flat, and then it finally made it to the top. So we get to the last flat, and there's this big alder patch, so I just didn't want to skyline myself, so I was up front, so I kind of moved over. And as I peeked up, I was looking through the alders, and I see a doe coming out, and this buck is rutting her. So I pulled up, and it was a 3x2 with eye guards, and I was like, man, he's a pretty dang nice buck. And I'm like, nah. I was like, I'm looking for a buck 100 inches or better. Like, I really wanted to shoot like a giant. So I looked back down the hill, and I was like, I told Kenny and Seth, I go, dude, when do you guys want this buck up here? And Seth's like, I want him. So Seth sneaks up there, and we get them set up, and it's like 80 yards. And I learned real quick, these deer are like, when we first got there, were like the tamest deer I've ever seen in my life. Like, they did not care about anybody. Like, you could move around, and like, he was having a hard time getting positioned to like get a good solid rest. And so he was kind of making some erratic movements, and I was kind of like, hey, dude, like, this buck's going to run. And he just stood there. Yeah, I was like, just slow your movement a little bit. But that buck just sat there and just stared at us. And then, dude, he shot that buck at like 80 or 100 yards and just flipped him upside down, dude. I mean, just like folded him like a lawn chair, dude. And I was like, oh my God, dude, like, we just killed our first Sitka blacktail, dude. Like, we were all pumped, like high-fiving each other and stuff. And like, Danny and Seth are like old school, where they drag everything out. So they don't pack deer out. Like, they're the old school guys that will like pack a deer out or like drag a deer out for miles, or they'll go back out, get a cart, walk back in, and then cart them out. So it was a cool experience. Yeah. So it was a cool experience for like Seth and Danny, because they've never really like broke a deer down in the field. So like, I got to teach them how to like break a deer down and like debone a deer out in the field and like quarter them up and like the proper cuts and like how to make sure you get everything off, because in Alaska, you have to take everything. So like Colorado, you got 4 quarters, backstrap, and tenderloins, and you can leave the neck meat and the ribs. And Alaska, everything has to come off the animal. So you have to take all the meat, which I firmly believe that's the right thing to do anyways. You know what I mean? Like, you might as well try to take as much as you can. So one of the problems with doing the lodge deal is when they drop you off, you're in it to win it. You're there all day. So if you shot a buck 10 minutes into your hunt, be prepared to sit there till 5:30, because you have no communication with them. So we quartered his deer up, and then we went and just hung it up in a tree, and then we drug the carcass way away from the meat. At least that way, if something did come in, you know what I mean? Like, it would mess with the carcass and not the meat. And then we took off and hiked the rest of the day, and we saw some bucks, passed on a bunch. And then we came back down and loaded our packs up or whatever with the meat or whatever. And then, all of us were there. So that pack out was like really easy. And so like, we all were standing there by the carcass, and we all had our packs on, and Danny took a picture of us, and it's on my Instagram photo of all of us with Seth with a picture of the buck on his back. And it was one of the most beautiful, badass photos I've ever had. It looks like something like a professional photographer took like for a magazine. And I was just like, it was a cool capture of the moment of like our first Sitka blacktail in Kodiak. So it was like a kind of a cool photo. So then we pack that deer down, we go out. So then we get back to the lodge that night. Randy comes in. He's like, man, that's a great deer. And I was like, sweet. So we're on the right track. So then the next morning we go out on Friday, and it was super windy, and those deer do not like the wind. So we decided to go across the lodge where I had glassed those bucks up 2 nights prior to the day we were hunting. So when we got in there, I was telling Daniel and Kenny, I'm like, we got to find a place like out of the wind. So we had a plan, and then we kind of got sidetracked. We saw some deer, and we started kind of working away from where our original plan is. And my style of hunting is when I have a plan, like that's it. Like I'm not trying to get sidetracked. I'm not trying to glass off in like farther country, because that's how you end up bombing off or just getting off track. Like I had an idea of where I wanted to go. So we ended up steering our way back and getting back in this big bowl, and it was just so windy, dude. We were just not seeing deer. And then we decided that we were going to go back up over on the face. Well, then we hit a point where now it's like 2:00 in the afternoon. We hadn't really seen much. And we get over. So my buddy Kenny, I call him a squirrel because he gets scatterbrained sometimes. I love him to death. But he's one of those guys that will just be like, oh, there's no deer here. Let's move over here. Then he'll be like, oh, there's no deer here. Let's move over here. I'm like, dude, you got to just chill out. Like, so when we got over the face, he immediately was like, we should go back to that bowl. And I was like, nope, we're staying on this face. Like, we're already at a point now where it's 2:00. We have to be back at 5 on the beach. Like, if we go back in there, we have to hike back up another like 600 feet, 700 feet to go back up and around and then get in that bowl. And then obviously where you see him at, then it puts in perspective of like, you got to be on a time frame because you have to be back at 5. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, if we go back in that bowl, when we see a buck in there, I know it's going to happen. We're going to shoot it, and then we're going to be late. And I don't know if these people are going to wait for us or they're going to get mad and then cancel, like cut our hunt short because we weren't listening. So then I was like, all right, you know what? Let's go back to the bowl. I was like, you're right. Let's go. So we hike back in there. We get set up. We're trying to get out of the wind. And all of a sudden the wind just stops. And it's like 2:45 in the afternoon, and the wind just stops. And then they came out of the woodworks. And I glass up this big frame 3-pointer, and I'm like, that's a nice buck. And Daniel's like, you want to shoot that deer? And I'm like, yep. And I'm like, I do. I was like, let's go. He's like, well, we're going to bomb in there right now. Like, we got to go. He's like 1,000 yards. So I told Kenny, I was like, you just stay on point. Just sit up here. So I take off, and me and him are jamming, dude, trying to cut the distance on this deer. But the problem is the way that bowl was worked, there was a big canyon in between us. There was a big flat plateau, and there was this big creek bottom. So, and the way the alders were, they're so high that if you try to drop in and get on the same elevation as him, you're never going to see him. So Dan and I decided, like, let's just stay high, and we kind of worked the rim of that bowl to keep elevation, and so we could somewhat keep eyes on him. But there was a lot of times you had to drop in elevation to get back up. So we were about 100 yards from where we were about to get to where we thought we could see that deer, and I hear, and I looked at him, I go, did Kenny just shoot? And he goes, I think he did. And I'm like, what? And then Kenny gets on the radio, and he's like, I just shot a big buck. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And he's like, I was sitting here at this nice 3-pointer, just dogging him with his nose to the ground, just comes going through the alders. And Kenny's like, I'm sitting there, and I was sitting here all this brush breaking. And I'm like, oh, he's in his first thought, he's like, it's a bear. Yeah. So he racks around, and you got to mind you, Kenny says he's 5'8", I say 5'6". So he can't really see over the alders. So he has to like get over, and he like peeks over, and this buck is going through the alders, and he's like, oh shoot, that's a nice buck. And Kenny don't shoot one time. Kenny's going to make sure he's going to keep shooting them until they are dead. So he hear boom. And then he's on the radio while he's running. So he shoots this buck at like 40 yards, and the buck kind of like rolls down the hill. And then he's like running and talking, like yelling us on the radio. He shot a deer, and they hear boom. And I was like, yeah, there's Kenny's true fashion right there. He's going to shoot twice. And he goes, I didn't need to shoot him the second time. He was already dead, but I want to make sure he's down. And I was like, well, I'm glad you shot him again. So he shoots him in the neck, and it blows out right between the shoulder blades, like right high through the spine, and just like blows up parts of his back strap. And I was like, you didn't need to do that again, Kenny. But I was like, that's all right. So then I looked at Daniel, and I go, well, we're at this point now. I was like, let's just turn around and go back to Kenny. And he goes, well, we've already gone this far. I said, dude, there's no way we're going to be able to get 2 bucks out of here by 5. Like, there's no way. And he goes, let's just go to the edge. I'm like, all right. I was like, we'll go to the edge. So I peek over, and sure enough, he's out there with 5 other bucks. and he's just rutting his brains out, dude. And it was pretty cool. Like he's sidestepping, ears pinned back, putting his head down, and he's posturing up on other bucks, and they're like wanting to fight or whatever, and he's pushing these younger bucks off. And so I told Daniel's like, "What are you gonna do?" I'm like, "I'm gonna shoot him." And I'm like, "Screw it, dude. We're gonna figure this out later. Like we're already in here. I'm shooting this buck." So I was like, "Range him." He goes 350. So I laid out prone. I dialed a 350, and there's so many bucks like going in and out. I want to make sure that I'm going to shoot the right buck, because there was another buck in there was kind of a similar frame, but he was not as heavy, and he didn't have eye guards. So I was like, I didn't want to shoot that deer, but if you were to just make a quick decision, you could have easily shot the wrong buck. And there was a cool like super short horn buck, but really wide, So I obviously didn't want to shoot that buck either. And there was two little forward horns in there. So then I got on the right buck. Well, then he turned and he was like hard quartered away, and he was pushing his doe, and he was pushing her back into the alders. And so Daniel slid his pack underneath my arm, and I just got in the gun and I put it right on the front part of his shoulder and just boom. And he just, as he was taking mid-step, he just dropped. Blah. So I hit him right behind the last rib, and it just went all the way through and came out right behind his opposite shoulder, and he just, dropped him. And I was like, heck yeah, dude. I was like, I just got me a nice buck, dude. And at this point, I hadn't seen Kenny's buck. So then I get to my deer. So Daniel walks me to my deer because he was in this big flat. So there was no topography or like a landmark to like see where he was at. So like he walks me into the deer and he gets down there. So at this point now, and I forgot to tell you, so Kenny had forgot his phone. So there's no way for Kenny to like set his buck up to take pictures. So now he has to wait for us to get over there so we could take pictures of his deer. So now we're in a real big time crunch, because now it's like 3:10 in the afternoon, and we have to be back in, an hour and 50 minutes. And we have 2 bucks down. And we are, at this point, we were 3 miles in, and we'd have done 2,000 feet. So we were like, oh man, we got to go. So I took pictures, had that buck caped, broke down and in our packs, and we're back to Kenny at 4:15. Yeah, we were booking it. As a matter of fact, while we were working on the deer, I went to move his leg up, and I went to make a cut, and my knife slipped, and I just hammered my finger like through my glove, and I like looked down, and blood is like pouring out of my finger, and I'm like, and Daniel's like, "Is it bad?" I'm like, "I don't know," and he's like, "Is it bad?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "Stitches?" And I go, "Probably." And he goes, "Do you want to take your glove off?" I go, "Not right now, I don't." I was like, "We're just gonna assess that damage later." So I had an ace bandage in my pack, so I just wrapped it really tight and then just taped it and then just dealt with it. And as we were walking, you could just see blood like pouring out of my finger. And I'm like, well, this is going to be bad later. So we get up to Kenny, and then we take pictures of his, we break his down, and now it's like 4:30. And I get us on the radio, and they're like, how far are you from the beach? And I'm like, 35, 45 minutes. And they're like, okay. And I was thinking like, yeah, well, we could make it down in that time. And then as we started going, we had an anchor of Kenny who kept falling. And then he obviously, I'm 6'1", Daniel's 6 foot. He can't keep up with us. So he's trying his best. So like, and not to beat him up or anything, but like for every one of our strides is like 3 of his. And then trying to navigate, now it's getting dark. And then my headlamp gets ripped off and I can't find it, and it got turned off. So now I'm trying to walk in the dark in grizzly bear country through thick walls of brush. So Kenny had an extra headlamp that went on my brim of my bill, and it literally shined about a foot in front of me, and about a beam that was like not very big. Like I could barely see it. I'm like, great. It was worthless at that point. And so we ended up getting to the beach at 6:45. And I think the owner was a little mad at first, but then when we came with the bucks, then he was like, oh, those are nice bucks. And I was like, yeah. And so he was cool about it. And then our boat captain, Blake, he was cool. He was like, I don't care. He's like, I'll just wait out here for whenever you guys get here. He goes, but when you told me 45 minutes, I was like, there's no way. Like, absolutely not. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of lied to you. I was like, I didn't want you to leave. So we get the bucks back down, and dude, I am just like, I am sore. So we decided, we're like, all right, the third day, we're going to go fishing. And we picked the most epic day to go fishing. I've been on lakes that are rougher than that bay. That bay was like glass. And we're fishing at like 300 feet for halibut and Pacific cod. And so we get out there. And obviously, being from California, we've all ocean fished and we all fish, so we know how to fish. So our boat captain Blake was like, dude, this is great. Like he didn't have to do anything. Like we were hooking our own lines up and like putting our own bait on and just fishing. He's like, well, what do you want me to do? I'm like, well, go fishing with us. Like we're out here. He's like, all right. So he was fishing with us, dude. So it was like a blast. And I learned real quick on that trip that I'm a horrible fisherman. Like horrible. The running joke was I couldn't catch halibut. So Kenny and Jimmy, they're big fishermen, and dude, they're just like catching fish after fish after fish. And I'm like looking over at them, and I'm like, what? I'm doing the same thing you're doing, and I'm not like I cannot catch a fish to save my life. So I finally hook into a fish, and I'm like, all right, dude. I'm like, it's a halibut, and I reel it up, and it's a cod, and I'm like, dang it. And then they're catching halibut after halibut after halibut. And I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous, dude. Like, so you're allowed one halibut that's 29 inches or bigger, and then you have to catch one small halibut that's under 29 inches. So, like, that's your limit a day. And in Alaska, you can't catch halibut you can't fish for halibut on Tuesdays, which I don't know. They give them 1 day of a rest, I guess. So they picked a Tuesday. So the running joke is like, I can't catch fish. Well, then Kenny like looks over at me. We're fishing, and he's like, "Dude, don't you like how like the halibut like when you're reeling them in, like they're shaking their heads?" I'm like, "Yeah, I wouldn't know, dude." I was like, "I haven't even caught one halibut." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's right." He's like, "I've caught 5," and I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "You're a dick." I was like, "I hate all of you." And then I just hear like, "Oh, Daniel's hooked up," and I'm like, "Good for Daniel." And I'm just like sitting there, and then like, so after a while, I just left my rod in the water, and I was just like on my phone, like looked through Instagram and just like sitting there. I'm like, I'm just here for moral support. I was like, I'll let them catch the fish. I'm going to get fish no matter what. At least I don't have to reel one in. So then finally, I hook into this fish, and this fish is just like so hard to get up, dude. And I'm like, I got a record on, dude. And I'm like reeling this fish in, dude. And I'm like fighting it. And I'm like, this is a big halibut. I was like, it's not fighting like a cod. And all of a sudden I see this massive mouth coming up out of the water. And I'm like, dude, what in the world is this? And he's like, oh, it's a cabezon. I'm like, what the heck is a cabezon? It's like this prehistoric looking fish. And they call it like the Irish dancer of the sea or something like that. So Blake was telling us it's like bad luck to keep them, I guess, in Alaska or something. They're good eating, but so I took a picture with it. It's just this massive fish. It's cool looking. And then, so then I threw it back, and then I'm like, dang it, dude, I really thought that was going to be a halibut. And then I hear somebody else like, I got another halibut on. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Good for you guys. So I was like, I'll stick to hunting. So then we move spots, and I finally hook into a fish, and I reel it up, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a halibut. So I caught the smallest halibut out of everybody that hit 29 inches. That was my biggest one. So then at that point, we were at our limit. So everybody had caught like our fish. But I really wanted to catch 2 halibut. So I hear Blake go, all right, lines up. And I was like, yeah, not me. So everybody's reeling our lines up. And I was like, I'm going to drop down one more time. So I dropped down real quick, and I'm like, come on, please just get a bite. And all of a sudden I feel my rod just like jerk, and I set the hook, and I'm like, oh, I got one. I'm all reeling it up, and he looks over and he goes, dude, I said lines in. I go, yeah, no, I never heard you. I'm all reeling in. I'm like, it's another halibut. So I was like, technically, I caught my 2. I claim that I caught 2. I caught it. So, I at the end of the trip, even though they said lines up, I did catch 2. So when we ended up catching over 3 or 4 days of fishing, obviously, thank you to Jimmy because he did the most fishing. We brought home 133 pounds of halibut and Pacific cod. And so, yeah. So then day 4, we decide we're going to go back out to the place we went the first day where Seth shot his buck. So we go out, and it's just cold and snowing. And we glass up a buck, and he's pretty far. And Daniel's like, man, that's a pretty dang nice buck. And I'm like, hey, he's all right. Like, he's a good buck. So we're looking at him. And Daniel's just kind of like wishy-washy. He's kind of like him-hawing around. And so like I looked at him and I said, Daniel, if you really have to take this long to decide whether you want to shoot that deer, I don't think it's worth going over and burning all those calories to shoot a buck that you're probably not going to be happy with. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And I looked at Danny. I said, you want to shoot that buck? And Danny was like, nope. I was like, all right, well, let's push further. So we kept going up the ridge, and we finally hit this one last part that was super, super steep, dude. Like it was rough. And Danny looks at us and goes, well, boys, this is where I draw the line in the sand. He's like, I've gone as far as I can make it. He's like, I'm going to stay here in glass. And I'm like, well, you've hunt pretty dang hard. I go, for being 70 years old, I give it for you. Like, you've gone further than most people that are 40 or even 20. So Daniel and I hiked up and went in this back ridge, and it was awesome, dude. It was like this super big bowl. There's a big pond back in there, and we're sitting there glassing, dude. And I'm glassing, and I'm like, that's not good. And he's like, what am I? Look at the size of that grizzly bear. And it was a big old sow with 2 cubs, and they had killed a deer. And so she's burying it. And I watched her grab it with her mouth, dude, and lift this deer up like it weighed absolutely nothing, and just picks it up with her mouth and just like moves it over and sets it down. And I was like, holy cow. I mean, dude, those bears are built way different than our bears. Like, her cubs were the size of like our bears that we considered like giants, like a 500-pound cub. Like, they were huge. And I'm like, dude, it puts in perspective of like how powerful those animals are, because one of her cubs kept messing with her, dude, and she just grabbed him and just tossed him like he was nothing. And I was like, dude, there's no way that you would ever be able to fight a bear off. You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy. And it was cool because like I wanted to see a Kodiak grizzly. And I got to see him almost every day, exactly how I wanted to see him. Very far, 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 far away. You know what I mean? Like, and two, like going through there, like there was a, it's kind of intimidating. Like, your first day going in there in the dark, like right at daylight, like the whole time in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to come across the bear. I'm going to come across the bear, because I don't like bears. And, they told us too, like, it's a myth. Like, they don't come running to gunshots. Obviously they get hunted, so they hear gunshots. They kind of shy off. They don't want to be anywhere around humans. So that kind of put me at ease. So we were in there and we saw some bucks, and I was telling Daniel, I was like, I feel like that's why we're seeing better class bucks, because we're in I think we're going far enough in that most people are never going to go into. And then I looked up a mile down the ridge in some really nasty country, and I see these 2 dudes just like pop over the ridge. And I was like, nope, we haven't gone far enough. I was like, those guys went deep, like really deep. And so we decided, we backtracked out. We met up with Danny and Seth, and then we saw a couple more bucks, and just nothing we really wanted to shoot. So we obviously came back down, went back to the lodge. And so then we were down to day 5 of our trip. And so now we're like 4th and 10. So we decided we were going to split up. So there was a place that we called the Causeway. So you have to pull like 300 feet out of the bay. So it's at the back of Larson Bay, and you have to pull like 300 feet up this like really rutted up like little quad road. And then it gets onto a plateau of flat with a wooden road. Like, you're walking on wooden planks for like 2 miles. Danny called it road hunting the whole time he was there. He's like, I'm going back to road hunting. And so when we were there, we, obviously you could shoot foxes, and we were asking everybody, like, have you guys shot any foxes? And everybody's like, no one's killed a fox this season at all. Like, they're just not seeing foxes. And I'm like, dang, that sucks, because I really wanted a fox. So Danny and Seth go to the Causeway. We called the Yellow Brick Road. That's what we were calling it. It was like, he's going to go to the Yellow Brick Road. So Danny and I decided to go back to where Kenny and I killed our bucks. So, and then Kenny and Jimmy decided they were going to go fishing for the day and go crabbing. So Daniel and I had a plan. We're like, we're going to go right back up to that glassing knob where I glassed up my buck and where Kenny shot his buck. So we jammed. We made it up. We did like probably 1,800 feet in like an hour. Like, we were jamming, dude, like just pumping in there. Because I knew we were going to have about an hour in the morning of good hunting before those does were going to push back to go bed. So obviously those bucks are going to follow them back in there. And as soon as we got up there, dude, I was just like, there's deer, there's deer, there's deer. And then we're like, that's a good buck. And we thought he was a big, heavy foregrhorn. At this point, Daniel's like, I'm going to shoot that deer like it's the last day. Like, I'm not going to be picky. And it was a big, like, heavy frame deer. So like, all right, we're going to go after that deer. So I told Daniel, I was like, if we're going to do it, we got to do it now, because once those deer leave, like, we got to go. And so in Alaska, it's against the law to use walkie-talkies for hunting. You can obviously say like, hey, I shot a deer, come over here. You can't use them to like walk somebody into a deer. So I was like, well, I got to go with you. So we go in there, and we're like bumping into deer, all these deer once we got in there, and obviously like little bucks. And we could not find that big buck. And I was telling Daniel, I'm like, dude, there's no way that he left here. Like, it's in a bowl. Like, we would have seen him leave. Now, if he'd left out towards the north, he could have slipped out through one little gap, but there was like a sheer cliff on the other side. It was like a steep, steep cliff. And I'm like, I don't see that doe going in there. I could see a buck, like a lone buck by himself, like going off that face, but I would never like expect a doe to go that direction. So I was like, she's got to be in here somewhere. Like he's just got her pinned down somewhere in the alders. Like eventually we just got to wait him out. Like he'll come out. And so we're sitting there, and it was pretty cool, dude. Like we're sitting there, all of a sudden we hear bet, 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 and here comes this little spike grunting running by us. Like he's just so rutted up. And I was like, that's kind of cool because I've never heard a buck grunt in the wild, like ever. And then you hear another grunt, and here comes this little forking horn behind him. And I was like, hey, Daniel, I was like, there's a buck. And he's like, I can't do it. I'm like, all right. I was like, hey, I was just letting you know. I know you wanted to shoot a buck. And he's like, not yet. I'm like, okay. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear Daniel go, dude, there's a buck right there. And I look over, and I'm like, that's him. That's that buck. So I range him. I go 400 yards, and he's just standing there looking around, and the doe is standing above him. So Daniel gets out, and we're in like this big flat, dude. It was crazy. It was like moss. And I don't know if I said this before, but like the ground there was really weird. Like when you walk on, it's hollow. It's like walking on a roof everywhere. It was really cool. It's like weird terrain. Like it's just like walking on a roof. It's like when you're walking, it's just like really hollow sound. And there was all these like, I don't even know what they were, like these big humps everywhere, like moss grown all over them. It's not rocks, but it's just like these deals that like poked up out of the ground. It was kind of crazy terrain. So Daniel was able to like lay on one of those little deals and get his bipod out. And I'm like, I can hear him, but I'm watching the buck, and I can hear him. He's like farting around with his gun, and he's like getting frustrated, and I can hear him like trying to close his bolt. And I'm like, hey, dude, like he's leaving, like he's going to go to the left, like so he walks behind his big alder patch, and then the doe walks out through the next opening, and I hear him get his bolt closed, and he's like, is that him? And I'm like, no, that's the doe. I'm like, don't shoot. I'm like, he's behind her. He's going to get ready to step out. When he steps out, I'm going to try to get him to stop. So as soon as that buck starts coming out in the opening, I just go, hey, and he stops. I go 400, shoot him, and he shoots, and it's like this. It wasn't like a loud shot. It was just like a psh, and I hear whack, and I go, you hit him mid body. I go back lungs, and then he goes into the bushes, and I can see him through the brush. I go, dude, put another round in him. If you can squeak one through the brush, like shoot him again. And I can hear him, and he's like fiddle fart with his gun, and he goes, and I hear him like yank on his bolt. And then he goes, that's not good. And I look down. When he did that, he pulled back and injected the shell out, and the bullet stuck in his barrel. And now we have no more gun and no bullets. And then I look up, and I just see his deer fall over. And I'm like, oh, he's dead. Like, he's done. He's like, is he done? I'm like, he's done. I was like, well, he has to be now because we don't even have bullets. So I was like, we're going to have to try to stab this deer or something. So now we have no gun. I didn't bring pepper spray. So we're just like raw dogging it now, dude. Like we have a deer down in grizzly bear country with nothing. So we get up there, and he ended up being a real old, heavy 3-pointer. So we're like, oh, dude, this is great. So we're all high-fiving. It's like 11 o'clock in the afternoon. So like, oh, we got time. So we cape him out and quarter him up, get him on our packs. And dude, we bombed out of that country in an hour and a half. Like, just taking our time. It was nice. Like we just cruised. We were able to, we could see, obviously. We were doing it in the dark. So we get down to the beach, and I call Seth, and he answers, and I'm like, hey, dude, so how's your hunt going? He's like, we're back at the beach. And I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, so you guys just done for the day or what? And he's like, nope, we're tagged out. I go, no freaking way. And he FaceTimes us, and he turns, and Danny's like, I got a 4x3, and I'm like, no freaking way, dude. I was like, I cannot believe we tagged out, dude, like on all good bucks. You know what I mean? Yeah, and especially for, and really good bucks. And then Danny goes, wait, there's more. And he pulls out a fox. And I was like, no freaking way, dude. I was like, you got a fox? I was like, holy cow, dude. I was like, this is the most epic trip ever. You know what I mean? So like, we caught great fish. We all shot great bucks. The group of guys that I went with, dude, like I was so, it was the greatest trip I've ever been on in my life. Like we never stopped laughing. Like everybody got along. You know what I mean? Like obviously being from California, and then we were coming right out of the time change, you know, like they're an hour behind us. So technically we were still on, you know, summertime schedule. So we were waking up at like 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning, you know, because obviously our normal time would be 5:30. So we were like wide awake. So we had like long mornings. So it made it nice. Like no one was mad that people got up too early or whatever, you know. we're making coffee, just like laughing, having a good time, like listening to Jimmy's crazy sayings that he has all the time. Like the whole time he'd just be like randomly go, Buffalo. I'm like, what do you come up with? Like every time like we'd just be like, Buffalo, hey, Buffalo. And he'd start laughing. And I'm just like, what do you come up with this stuff, Jimmy? Like, and it was just like, just poking fun at everybody. And then like, the last night we were there, we had crab. We caught all those crabs. And Danny ate a pie. I don't even know how many pounds of crab he ate. He had to have eaten like 2 pounds of crab. And then he went and sat on the couch and passed out. And so I took a picture of him passed out on the couch after crab. And I said, we were all laughing at him and stuff. But it was just like, I could not have asked for a better trip with the people that I went with, to the caliber of bucks we killed, to like just the whole trip itself was amazing. And then on the way out, like, so then, like once we got done with the trip, everything was great. Like I could not, I went in with that trip. I told Daniel when we were on the plane on the way over there, he goes, what's your goal in this trip? And I was like, my goal is to have fun. I was like, to be honest with you, I don't care. Matter of fact, that was the first deer that I have killed out of state since 2014. So I just went in there with like the expectation of like, I'm just going to go have fun. Like, I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm just going to go and trust the process of how I hunt. And when I got there, obviously I was like, the terrain was similar to what I hunt. So I was like, okay, this is, I can do this. Like it was good. I think me and Daniel figured it out in 4 days. We did 15 miles and about 7,000 or 8,000 feet total in 4 days. So every day you're doing about 1,600 to 2,000 feet every day, up and then back down. And so I would tell anybody that's listening to this, if you're going to go to Alaska, if there is a doubt in your mind that you're not in shape, get in shape first before you go. Because if you don't and you go, you're going to really waste your time. Like the way Larson Bay is they're going to have the outfitter we were with has 20 people a week in their camp. So put that in perspective, and that's just one. That's only one outfit. That's not the rest of the outfits that are in Larson Bay. So you got to figure you're basically hunting used land every single day. And those deer are not stupid. Like, I mean, they were stupid, but they would obviously you're not getting the low hanging fruit of off the beach. So you got to get up high, and you got to go farther than most people would want to go. Because a lot of those guys they'd be like, oh, I got to the top. I'm like, well, yeah, you got to the top, but then you were glassing the deer that we were hunting, which is the next mountain over. So a lot of guys didn't go that far. So obviously the caliber of bucks that other people were shooting in camp when we were there were a lot smaller than our deer. And so we were like the talk of the town. Like everybody was like coming over looking at our deer, and we didn't shoot like true giants by any means, but we shot all good, respectable, nice Sitka blacktail. Like there was not a slouch in the group, And so like that was that's actually the first trip that I've ever left that I did not have one regret. I hunted the hardest I possibly could, and I left nothing on the mountain. Like I did everything that I possibly could to hunt the best that I could. And it was nice to have like I wouldn't have killed my buck if it wasn't for Kenny wanting to go back over into that bowl. You know what I mean? Like, and my stubbornness was like, nope, we're staying here on this face. Like we're already here. Like I'm just going to hunt the rest of this day. And then if I don't see anything, I'll just chalk it up as a loss and we'll go back on the next day. And Kenny was like, no, we're going back in there. You know what I mean? So it was like, it was neat to like bounce ideas off of other people. You know what I mean? Like, and so it was fun. And like, and everybody that was there are really good hunters. And so like, it was fun. And like, so Danny is the closest thing I have to a father that I look up to. So like to get to do that with Danny, and Danny and I this year have had some epic hunts. We started this year doing a pig hunt on Father's Day with my kids, and we shot a pig. He was there when I shot my Thule elk. He shot 2 pigs with me, and I shot a pig on that trip. He shot a buck with me this year during the general season where we were hunting with me, and then to shoot the 2 black, and then finish out our hunting season this year with 2 black, Sitka blacktails in Kodiak was like so epic, dude. Like I could not have, if I wrote it up a hunt, I couldn't have wrote it up any better. Yeah, dude. Like, and then on the way home, we got back, we said goodbye. Like, Randy and Sherry run a great, or Randy and Terry run a great outfit. Like Blake, our boat captain, was unbelievable, dude. Like it was awesome because like he flew back with us because he had a wedding in Florida, so he was on all of our flights home up to Portland. So it was really neat to like have him on there, and like he was like, I knew when I saw you guys like you were going to be a fun group. Like you guys had a plan. You guys could tell you guys were having fun, but like it was a serious hunting trip. You know what I mean? And he goes, and then when we went fishing, I realized like he's all, most of you knew how to fish, and I'm like, yeah, well, screw you. Like I'm not a fisherman. You know what I mean? Like so. We load everything up on the plane and we're flying out, dude. And it was really windy. And that plane would drop like 40 feet out of the air and then go back up. So the pilot flew up and, dude, it was crazy. So we got above the clouds and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life, dude. Like we're flying just above the clouds and it looked like we were in another universe. And I remember I was like thinking, I was like, this got to be where heaven starts. Like, if you think about it, like it was like, I took videos and it doesn't do it justice. Like you had to see it in real life. Like it was just like the most unbelievable views. And like when we landed in Kodiak, there was like this like weird feeling in my head. Like I was like sad that it was over, but happy. Like I was going home. Like I was ready to come home. But it was like one of those hunts where I was not like mad about leaving or like, oh, I should have stayed a little longer or like maybe if I hunted harder. Like we were just very calculated on what we were doing. Yeah. So like it was just an epic trip, dude. Like it was the best trip I've ever been on. And I would tell anybody, if you get a chance to go, go. And I had a guy made a remark on my Facebook page, and I don't normally do this, but I'm going to do it on this podcast. I don't tell people what I spend on hunts. I don't. Obviously, I'm not going to post on social media like it cost me this amount of money. But I will say this. On this trip, round trip, that was everything, was about $5,500. So if you don't think that it's attainable, it is. If for the average Joe guy, and some guys might go, well, $5,500 is a lot of money. It took me 2 years to save for this trip. I have a hunting fund. So last year I didn't go anywhere out of state, so I saved that money. And then this year I used the money that I would have used to go out of state for this trip. So it took me 2 years to save for this trip. So I tell anybody, if you're not a wealthy person where, $5,500 is a lot of money to a lot of people, it's doable. You just have to put things in perspective and go, okay, maybe I don't go hunt California this year and next year, but I'm going to go to Alaska. And I tell everybody this right now. If you get a chance to do it, go do it. You will not regret it. And who cares about the biggest buck or little bucks? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, do it. Just do it one time in your life. Like, I absolutely fell in love with Alaska. And the cool thing is that's the second to last deer that I need for my slam. So I have to finish my slam out now with a whitetail. So, which is going to be the easiest deer to get. Yeah. So, like, yeah. So I think next year I might be going whitetail hunting. I haven't decided yet. So, but yeah, like I said, round trip with flights, checking bags, checking meat from the time I left to the time I got home was about $5,500. So you could do it between $5,000 to $6,000. It's very manageable. You know what I mean? And some people could just pull that out of their bank accounts and go, and some of us have to save. But it's what you got to look at. You have to look at it like, if this is something I really want to do, then you can, and it's not, and money's not like easy for some people. Like this has, extra money laying around. Maybe not go and do some hunts at home for a year or two and save, and you won't regret it. Like it is, like when I was telling you when I got back, Mason, like, dude, go on that trip, like, and do it with a good group of guys, like I did, like guys that are there to have fun, but also to be serious. And like, I think by going with zero pressure on that hunt of just going to go have fun, really, I think made me hunt a little bit better. Cause I was not as like, I was obviously a little prepared because Travis, my buddy, sent me some pins. So I had some like starting points. And then, you know what I mean? Like obviously the terrain was familiar, and then, just not putting any pressure on myself, like just to go have fun. You know what I mean? So it was It was fun.
That kind of trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, well,
But yeah.
thanks for sharing the story. I really appreciate that. That sounds like a
Yeah.
great trip.
It was awesome, dude. It was great. So, well, it looks like we had quite the season this year, man.
Thank you guys for watching, and we really appreciate the support.
Yep.